This video is brought to you by Boxu. Thank you, Boxu, for sponsoring this video.
You only need to know me. I will be the one.
So there's a discovery that I think I made. In part it is my own, but also fueled by some comments I had received under the review for chapter 1044 about Zoro and whether there would be a parallel moment for him, as we have gotten from Luffy and in a way, also Sanji. Sanji has woken up as of chapter 1044, but what about Zoro? Is he down for the count? Do the Straw Hats have a role left in the story of Wano Onigashima specifically that is yet to play out? Or is it solely Luffy's time to shine? What I like to consider as an answer to this is how Thriller Bark was an arc where both Zoro and Luffy shined, bright like celestial bodies in the sky, one a moon, the other a sun. And to better understand this poetry, check out the Zoro Luffy Awakening video in the description box and pinned comments below to learn about the potential secret hidden in the lyrics of Binks Sake about the rising sun and moon. Although after chapter 1044, some people are beginning to question if the rising sun and moon could have multiple meanings and refer to multiple people rising in this age after Wano. But Thriller Bark, as I said, was an arc where both Luffy and Zoro had defining moments even that have foreshadowed events that have occurred in Wano and maybe still, moments that will occur. I feel like a separate video by someone like Morge or a more analytical figure would be called for in terms of identifying all the ways Thriller Bark foreshadows Wano, its beginning, middle, and end. Wano concluding, I believe, with the rising sun, a hint at the dawn and maybe the opening of Wano's borders as we saw the sun rise after Moria lost. Thriller Bark taught us to fear Kaido, a man, a beast, or a creature that had managed to strike fear even into the Shadow Man, a man like Moria, born from nightmares himself. Kaido being the nightmare of the new world, Moria warned the Straw Hats about. But what is key about Thriller Bark, as it pertains to this video about Zoro, is his connection to the legendary samurai of Wano, Shimotsuki Ryuma. I think there is a growing consensus that Wano cannot end without Zoro doing one last thing, and truth be told, defeating King the Wildfire, as grand, as epic as it was, just doesn't cut it. The legend of Zoro needs to ring loud and clear after the arc is over, a sound of shock and awe that will bring a smile to Mihawk's face, as I am sure Luffy's achievement, when Kaido falls, will do for Shanks. That is, if Shanks is still alive. But anyways, the theory for this video surrounds a title or several titles, two that we have gotten and one that we have yet to get. One for Luffy, the other for Sanji, and yes, we are missing one member of the monster trio of titles, and that is Roronoa Zoro. But essentially, chapter 1044 is titled Warrior of Liberation, and chapter 1031 is titled Warrior of Science. Luffy, Sanji, and so what about Zoro? Well, first, let's go down the list of why the word warrior seems to stand out, especially in titles because Oda doesn't use it too often. After diving into the deep and mysterious waters of One Piece Wikipedia, I returned to the surface a new man, awakened with the following knowledge. One Piece chapter 169 is titled The Kingdom's Strongest Warrior, a reference maybe to Pell the Falcon, who is said to be the strongest fighter or warrior in all of Alabasta. Pell once said he wanted to be strong in order to protect the country. That is why he trained so much. And so Pell was a guardian, but also he is based off a guardian deity and so a god. And so a connection again between warriors, protectors, and gods. Pell represents the falcon, one of the two guardian spirits of Alabasta, along with Chaka the jackal. Both of these individuals are based on the Egyptian deities Horus and Anubis respectively, with their hybrid forms displaying this even more so. And so guardian deities, gods, warriors. Yamato is said by Kaido to have eaten a mythical Zoan devil fruit, the Inu Inu no Mi, model Okuchi no Makami, that is considered the guardian of Wano Kuni, so a guardian deity. Like Luffy, it was accidentally eaten by Yamato, but as I said in the review for chapter 1044, maybe it wasn't an accident after all, and Yamato was chosen by the fruit, as Blackbeard described his Yami Yami doing for him, being chosen. Zoans, in this case mythical Zoans, having a mind of their own after all. Yamato's devil fruit is a wolf, god, or deity, the Makami being a deification of the now extinct Japanese wolf, which was traditionally worshipped as a sacred beast in Japan, in places like the Yamato province, and so Yamato's name has a connection to that too. For centuries, the Mikami was held as a guardian deity that understood human language and protected humans from misfortune, fire, and theft, their crops from being spoiled by animals, etc. We haven't really gotten more information on this, but maybe we will, given Yamato's father Kaido also ate a mythical Zoan to become a dragon god. Kaido being worshipped falsely, I might add, as a deity who protects the land. And Luffy's own mythical Zoan Nika, the sun god, is a warrior of liberation, an emancipator, a freer of slaves, a guardian deity in his own way. Maybe Nika was the guardian of the ancient kingdom, if we look at Skypiea and the Shandians worshipping the sun god, there being a belief that Shandora was once a part of the ancient kingdom, or at least its people were. But wait, there's more, because we get more titles that contain the word warrior in them. Maybe I'll list them on the screen for you. And these titles come from Skypiea, the Shandian fighters being described as warriors as well as the Birkins. Chapter 259, Pirate ZORO versus Warrior BRAHAM. Chapter 261, Warrior GENBO versus Heavenly Warriors Commander YAMA. Chapter 264, Warrior KAMAKIRI versus Kami Enel. And while there's no title page for him, we cannot forget our favorite Shandian, the leader of the Shandian warriors, YPER, given a title page YPER the Berserker in chapter 256. Berserkers being a class of warriors or fighters in a way. But given that the Shandians, Birkins, and Skypieans are thought to originate from the moon, what if the people from the moon had a warrior class and Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy all have some kind of ancestral relationship to the moon, unless they are purely just earthlings? King the Wildfire, a Lunarian, also strikes me as a warrior of some kind. Lunarians, if warriors, were also considered gods. We are told that's what they were called in the past, and so another connection. But first, the sponsor of this video is Boxu, snack makers that have been in the business for 100 years. Have you ever wondered how my voice came to be this way, rich and divine? Well, the answer is ever since I was a child, I've been eating snacks from Boxu. When you try Boxu's snacks, it's as if you are traveling to and getting a taste of Japan itself. Every year, Japanese cherry blossoms bloom all across Japan, and people celebrate by gathering under the trees for hanami, flower viewing, and enjoying picnics together. So Boxu has put together snacks and tea pairings sourced from all over the country that are perfect for your own Sakura celebrations. This is Boxu's most anticipated collection of the year. As you can see, it is packed with all sorts of limited edition cherry blossom themed snacks, and anyone who subscribes to Boxu during the month of March will receive Sakura Season as their first box. I have personally enjoyed Boxu on a monthly basis. It's necessary to record these videos. When I'm hungry, I eat Boxu. When I'm tired, I eat Boxu. And when I'm sleeping, I dream of Boxu. Boxu is why this channel exists. Boxu is how I have the energy, the joy to keep making One Piece content for you all. And Boxu serves you by getting you monthly boxes full of authentic Japanese snacks paired up with teas that you won't be able to get anywhere else. With your subscription to Boxu every single month, you will get a different box, newly put together with a different theme than the last based on the current season of Japan, so you always get to munch on different things with friends and family. There is even a booklet that tells you everything about what you're eating. For example, I recently tried some Ichigo milk marshmallows and unlocked my Bankai. But there's also some nice and sweet Sakura Bochi and some incredible rice crackers and cherry peach gummies. And so much more you can taste by using my code VINLAND10 and the link below to get 10% off, saving up to $47. Don't miss out on your own authentic Japanese snack subscription from Boxu by ordering today. But moving on, One Piece chapter 479 is titled Warrior Hope, and we get that from Thriller Bark, a title given to Luffy. And next, chapter 774 comes from Dressrosa and is titled Leo, Captain of the Tontatta Warriors. Chapter 933, A Warrior's Mercy, refers to the mercy of Kiyoshiro, or Denjiro, a scabbard in one of the Kozuki family's retainers. The samurai then being warriors, guardians of their people and their country, much like Ryuma, the legendary samurai, once was. And coming back to the present raid on Onigashima, chapters 1031 and 1044, Warrior of Science and Warrior of Liberation. And just to finish this off, I've always wondered why the popular One Piece fighting game Pirate Warriors has warrior in the title. And so let's ask the question again, what is Zoro a warrior of? Chapter 1031 is titled Warrior of Science, and we see Sanji that chapter facing off against Queen, Basically a competition to determine whose scientific ingenuity is better, which creation, which engineered construct or product is stronger than the other. Basically Queen saying that he was going to test himself against Judge's greatest creation. The fight of Queen and Sanji proving why Sanji is a scientific masterpiece, a modern marvel of humankind. Sanji moving so fast now that he might as well be invisible. Sanji's dormant lineage factors have been activated, from his genetic modifications to his Lunarian connections maybe, and the finished product is coupled with his burning emotions, a man whose flames burn as bright as his dreams, a move named Ifrit, a fire recently revealed to burn blue like the All Blue. I would add that in terms of being a warrior of science or a god, since you are probably wondering about the connection, well, there are people who worship science and technology as gods, and this is often depicted in futuristic movies, but even in real life. Science and technology are even seen as godlike to more primitive persons or civilizations. Some psychologists and philosophers assert that science is based on faith. Both religion and science give us knowledge of the unseen world. All knowledge of the unseen world must be based on some form of belief, and so science is a religion. And so Sanji's powers, especially his newly awakened scientific or genetically engineered powers, are godlike. Going to Luffy now, chapter 1044, the Warrior of Liberation. Luffy has finally fully awakened the powers of his mythical Zoan Devil Fruit, the sun god Nika. The Gorosei reveal to us what Luffy's powers can do, why he, or it is known as a Warrior of Liberation. Luffy's body has the properties of rubber, allowing him to fight in any way he wishes, a perfect power as I mentioned in the Luffy ate one of 3 ancient Devil Fruit videos. For one with a tremendous and childlike imagination, a power making people smile wherever he goes, and so Joy Boy, one who spreads joy. The Gorosei tell us Luffy's Devil Fruit awakening will give his rubber body even more strength and freedom, making this the most ridiculous power in the world. And this takes us back to why Oda gave Luffy the Gomu Gomu no Mi to begin with, how he slyly suggested there was nothing special about the Gomu Gomu no Mi at all, other than it being a silly, goofy power, a ridiculous power he could play with. Luffy's power then is as limitless as Oda's imagination, the author of the story who can do anything he wants with his story. And a subscriber had even said to me that Luffy had eaten the Devil Fruit of freedom itself. Luffy's rubber, I imagine, can stretch in its awakened state in any number of ways, changing shape and size, and doing the same exact thing to the world around him, like one of those clowns twisting up balloons or Play-Doh. If we thought Oda's story was goofy already, we haven't seen anything yet. These new powers will probably cause Oda to OD on his story, on his writing. We see a connection also between the title of chapter 1044, Liberation Warrior, where we get Luffy's Nika Spirit Awakening versus Kaido, with chapter 479, which is called Warrior of Hope, where we see Luffy's Nightmare form versus Moria. Even the way Luffy tosses Kaido around in their fight is reminiscent of what he did to Oars during Thriller Bark. Nightmare Luffy somewhat resembles the shock and awe of this Nika transformation, and there just might be other things about Thriller Bark that will now come into play. Luffy telling us that his awakening Gear 5, this is his highest peak. The same can be said about Sanji's new powers, each becoming gods in a way as I mentioned. And so, what about Zoro? To put it bluntly, I think Zoro will also become a god, a sword god like Ryuma, the god of the blade. And I've said this in many videos for those of you that are new here. And just as Luffy has a chapter titled Warrior of Liberation and Sanji Warrior of Science, maybe Zoro will have one titled The Warrior of the Blade, or something else based on a discovery I made, maybe even just calling it Sword God. But it's something I also brought up in the past about Zoro unlocking a black blade, a warrior's soul. But first, there's a figure known as Futsunushi, also known as Aunushi, a god of war, a warrior god of swords and warfare in Japanese mythology. There's also a figure known as Takemikazuchi, a deity in Japanese mythology considered a god of thunder and a sword god. His association with military conquest and the myth of him being born from a bloody sword suggests that god can also imply master, a master of the blade. This is interesting because it reminds me of the Master Sword from Zelda, and in the cover spread for chapter 1028, where Luffy is seen as the sun god Nika fighting a gorilla, a reference to Kaido maybe, because a subscriber had reminded me that Yamato had even called Kaido a cow gorilla. But in this color spread, we also see parallel to Luffy an image of Zoro dressed as Link, holding the Master Sword, fighting Chopper dressed as a dragon. Is the Master Sword hinting at a black blade and something more? But now that we've established some historical divinity associated with swords in Japan, I'm sure there's more, but that's all I could find at the moment. It would seem though that just as people worship or put their faith in science and technology, or actual gods like the sun god, people worship or put their faith in swords and see them as more than just items. Samurai swords especially hold a great deal of importance to the people of Japan. They are not just status symbols, works of art, but rather they have also had a spiritual significance throughout Japanese history. In essence, a samurai sword represented his soul, and you could make the argument that a black blade is the reflection of one who has mastered his soul and conquered the souls, the unique duty or disposition or personality that lies within his blades, the duty of every sword being different. And this discussion about the soul takes us to Ryuma, the god of the blade, who in Ichiro Oda's one-shot series Monsters not only cut down a dragon in the sky to create the legend that endures today, but also Ryuma was chasing a man named King, because he had heard the man was a strong swordsman with a great warrior soul. Ryuma had been told that he was only the second greatest sword master in the world, behind only the one known as the King. This ties into two characters in One Piece, I believe, the King alluding to both King the Wildfire, who Zoro fought and defeated, as well as Dracul Mihawk, King the Wildfire or Albur because of the name King, yes, but also the King, as in the world's strongest swordsman, because Mihawk did allude to a relationship between becoming Pirate King and the strongest swordsman in the world. Mihawk then is the King, the current and only living sword god that we know of, if becoming a sword god is attributed to having a black blade. An indication even that once Zoro unlocks a black blade, he will finally be ready to fight Mihawk again, and that is how Zoro will know. It is almost as if the world cannot have two sword gods, just as there cannot be two Joy Boys or two dragon gods in Kaido's words. It is also interesting that Ryuma came to learn at the end of the one-shot Monsters that he, Ryuma, is the one known as the King, an indication that Ryuma, if he parallels Zoro, became the king at the end of the series, and so Zoro will too. But the title King was a name given to him by the people he saved. Ryuma the King, and so Ryuma the sword god. To become the king, the best, you must become a god. A god being a swordsman who carries the world's greatest warrior's soul. To end the video though, warriors, gods, divine protectors. Luffy after facing death has awakened the sun god Nika. Sanji after facing down the possibility that he might lose himself, that he might in a way die and become a different person, evil like his brothers. Sanji has awakened his truest self, a product of his father Judge Vinsmoke, his mother Sora, and the teachings of his adopted father Owner Zeph. And so what will Zoro awaken as he also has been confronted with the prospect of death? The awakening of Nika resulted in Luffy having eyes that resemble those of Zunisha, Imu, Mihawk, Cavendish and others, and that might hint at Zoro's own left eye finally being explained down the road. And again, check out the Zoro and Luffy awakening video in the description box and pinned comments below to find out why. But it centers around this moment, where Hyogoro and Kawamatsu discuss Zoro's similarity to Shimatsuki Yoshimaru and the one-eyed samurai Ryuma, an emphasis being placed on his one eye maybe for a reason. Maybe one of Ryuma's eyes also had the same design as Mihawk's, or maybe it was closed for another reason like Zoro. But there seems to be a bonding between the spirit within and the host, a devil fruit user and the entity or god within their devil fruit, Luffy and Nika, and a swordsman conquering the spirit of their blade, Zoro and maybe Enma after defeating death. Zoro's power-ups have paralleled Luffy's thus far. Advanced armored haki or Ryo training, advanced conquerors displayed by each against Kaido in chapter 1010, something Zoro would master several chapters later against King, and so maybe Zoro awakens several chapters later after Luffy has, with something that once again puts him on Luffy's level, the level of a god, by becoming a god of the blade. Kaido said you couldn't be Joy Boy either, and now Joy Boy returns and Luffy awakens Nika. Kaido saying we will never see a samurai as monstrous as Kozuki Oden again. Maybe we will with Zoro, a samurai more monstrous than Oden, a samurai with a greater warrior's soul than even Ryuma. As for why the god of the blade Ryuma, a warrior, was considered a divine protector of Wano country, and why Zoro might inherit a similar title or relationship to Wano's people beyond his potential lineage or inherited will. Ryuma once said something that hints at the secret of true strength, that a battle is not measured by how much fame you gain from it, but by what you protected in the process. A callback to a quote from Rurouni Kenshin, whose author Ichiro Oda worked under. The strong exist not to feed off the weak, but to protect them, to serve them. Both Luffy and Zoro are strong, have grown stronger, and have something to protect this arc. And this is really all the motivation they need to grow even stronger in the future. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. And don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click the notification bell. And if you have a Twitter, feel free to give me a follow on there as well. As always, there's more to come. Until next time.